A huge undertaking by Catholic Charities Brooklyn and Queens. Soon this lot will be housing for those who need it most. I'm Emily Druby, that's ahead.
Also on Currents News tonight, how American Catholics are reacting to President Trump saying the U.S. is ready to embrace peace with Iran. And assisted suicide laws are under consideration in New York. We'll speak with the chair of the USA Euthanasia Prevention Coalition about the plan to stop that. Plus, the sweet moment Pope Francis shared with a nun so overjoyed to see him. Currents News starts right now. Brooklyn Bishop Nicholas DIMARZIO breaking ground with a team in Brownsville that will bring affordable housing to seniors. Good evening, I'm Lydia Serrani. Catholic Charities of Brooklyn and Queens is spearheading the construction effort. There's going to be new apartments and supportive services for low-income seniors. Currents News' Emily Druby reports from Brownsville on why the project is needed.
The rents are so expensive. We need affordable rents.
A lack of affordable housing, it's a New York City complaint as common as late subway trains.
Every day we're seeing people evicted from their homes. The rents continue to rise.
But Catholic Charities Brooklyn and Queens is digging into the problem. Breaking ground on what will soon become 135 affordable apartments for low-income seniors.
Today's kind of the success story of this interreligious commitment to do something for the elderly poor.
As the Bishop of Brooklyn explains, this project is part of an effort born in Rome where Catholics and Buddhists work together for the common good. Buddhists helped pitch and support the plan, and they came to the groundbreaking. The future 8-story building called the Loretto Apartments will have 24-hour security, a fitness room, and will be considered a green building. It's being built on the spot where Our Lady of Loretto Church once stood, taken down because it was in terrible need of repair.
The tradition of Loretto is going to continue. It will be senior housing, it will be a community center, and it will again provide those very needed services just as the parish did.
With this major step, Catholic Charities Brooklyn and Queens will offer even more affordable housing to those in need, but they're already one of the largest providers in the nation with over 4,300 units.
And we're anxious to continue.
And members of the community we spoke with are anxious too.
It makes me feel good, and I hope I get one of them.
Monsignor LOPINTO says this building fills a serious void. Over 200,000 seniors in this city are in need of affordable housing. In Brownsville, Emily Druby, Currents News.
Catholic Charities of Brooklyn and Queens is dedicated to changing lives and building communities. They offer many services. They're creating affordable housing units in many neighborhoods while fighting against hunger for the young and old alike. Catholic Charities welcomes the stranger and helps immigrants protect their rights and gain citizenship. Go to ccbq.org to learn more or to donate and help Catholic Charities in their work. And tonight, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is under growing pressure to send the impeachment articles to the Senate, but she's saying there is no rush.
I'll send them over when I'm ready. And that will probably be soon. I just, he said, if you don't send them over, I'm going to pass the Mexico-U.S.-Canada trade agreement. Okay. No, we want to see what they're willing to do.
That's Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who Pelosi is talking about. He has said that the Senate will conduct the trial under its own terms. Members of both houses of Congress are trying to put the clamps on the president's power to wage war in Iran. The clash with the White House is coming to a head soon with big upcoming votes. Whitney Wild reports the latest from Capitol Hill.
In the aftermath of a Trump administration briefing on the killing of a high-profile Iranian general, outrage is erupting from both sides of the aisle.
That was insulting. That was demeaning to the process ordained by the Constitution, and I find it completely unacceptable.
They gave us the most general conclusions about threats to the United States, but when it came to any specificity, it just wasn't there.
Now, both houses of Congress putting forth their own resolutions to limit President Donald Trump's power to use military force against Iran.
It's an insult to the Constitution. The Constitution said the power to declare war was to be given to Congress. They specifically did not give that power to the president.
Last week, in our view, the administration conducted a provocative, disproportionate airstrike against Iran, which endangered Americans, and did so without consulting Congress.
Some members of the administration and many Republicans contend the president's actions fall under protection from a law signed a week after 9/11, granting presidents the authority to use force against terrorists and the nations that harbor them. The administration has also argued there was an imminent threat that precipitated the strike.
Upon looking at the facts and being in the briefings I've been in, yes, I do believe it was the right decision.
In Washington, Whitney Wild, Currents News.
The United States believes tonight that an Iranian missile accidentally shot down a passenger plane over Tehran, killing 176 people on board. The aircraft crashed not long after Iran launched missile strikes against military bases in Iraq on Wednesday. American officials have a high level of confidence that Iran accidentally fired upon the civilian jet. Meanwhile, the mother of the plane's pilot visited a makeshift memorial for the victims. In her grief, the woman said over and over again, "He was my only son who will visit me now." She was at the arrival gate of Ukraine's airport, the jetliner's intended destination. Pope Francis is worried tonight that tensions between the United States and Iran could do more damage in the region and bring to a halt the rebuilding of Iraq. The Holy Father addressed that and another crucial issue today. Melissa BUTZ reports from the Vatican.
The Pope covered two big themes today in his highly anticipated address to world leaders. It was the U.S.-Iran crisis and protecting minors from abuse. Pope Francis got straight to business in his address to ambassadors, saying so far 2020 has been plagued with confrontation that engulfed much of the Middle East.
Nonché di creare le basi di un conflitto di più vasta scala che tutti vorremmo poter scongiurare.
Francis said that keeping the flame of dialogue alive is important to create an environment where peace could flourish. The other major issue the Pope tackled was ensuring children and vulnerable people are protected from clerical sexual abuse. He expanded on his call for an all-out battle with a new emphasis on education.
Di fronte a così gravi ferite, risulta tuttavia ancora più urgente che gli adulti non abdichino al compito educativo che compete loro, anzi si facciano carico di tale impegno con maggior zelo per condurre i giovani alla maturità spirituale, umana e sociale.
Pope Francis said education should not be limited to schools, but extend to churches and social communities, so this group effort can assist families in their primary role as educators. This is one of the Pope's most important speeches every year, giving him the opportunity to speak about issues that matter most to him. Thus, he also spoke about care for the common home, helping the poor, welcoming the migrant, and ending the scourge of human exploitation. At the Vatican, Melissa BUTZ, Currents News.
President Trump's assertion Wednesday that the United States is ready to embrace peace was welcomed by American Catholic leaders who call it a relief from mounting tensions with Iran. Here with me now to discuss this further is national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, Christopher White. Welcome, Christopher.
Good to be with you, Lydia.
Now, Pope Francis, he also urged peace as well as self-restraint and dialogue on both sides. Now, will his words have any bearing on U.S. foreign policy?
Well, I mean, the Pope's word certainly has moral authority. You know, he was speaking this morning to a room of diplomats from around the world, and he put this issue front and center. In that audience was U.S. Ambassador to the Holy See, Callista Gingrich, her husband Newt Gingrich. Both have strong ties to the Trump administration. So even if it's not some form of hard diplomacy, there's certainly some soft diplomacy at work. The Pope making it very clear that he's watching this and he wants leaders to take this to heart. So we'll see how it plays out.
And as you mentioned, many Christian leaders in particular are concerned, though, about the effect any sort of conflict could have on Christians in those Christian regions. We know Erbil has approximately 300,000 Christians there.
Yeah, the conflict that we've seen over the past decade really has driven so many Christians out of the region. And I think this is something that the Pope has consistently talked about, is the fact that, the Christians, this is sort of the cradle of Christianity in many respects, and we're just seeing them sort of dissipate. And Cardinal Sacco of Baghdad has also brought attention to this in recent days, saying, look, we're in a fragile situation already and we can't risk any more conflict.
And here in the United States, many Catholic voices, as well as Catholic leaders, they were very happy, I guess, relieved to hear the president's words when he said that the United States was ready to accept peace. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that a lot of Catholic leaders emphasized was the Pope said we need dialogue. Yesterday, President Trump, he also hinted at dialogue in his address. And I think a lot of Catholic leaders are hoping there's something there they can work with, because that is certainly the way that a lot of church leaders want to see this to go.
He definitely softened his stance.
Yes, exactly. A lot of people said, there's some de-escalation, and that's something we should welcome, and as a Catholic Church, do all that can be done to support that.
Thank you so much, Christopher White, national correspondent for the Tablet and CRUX.
Thanks, Lydia.
In Iraq, Archbishop Bashar Warda is appealing for an end to violence in his country. The Chaldean Catholic leader is warning that the confrontation between the United States and Iran is threatening the fragile Christian communities in the Nineveh Plains. He's saying they have continually suffered far too much and can no longer face an unknown future. They are tired of war and the tragic consequences of it. The Archbishop is calling for urgent action to diffuse the tensions in the region. As Australia wildfires rage, the Catholic Church is on the front lines of mourning and relief. The Church is offering financial as well as spiritual support to those affected. Among the efforts, assistance through welfare programs, health and education agencies, as well as prayer campaigns. So far, the wildfires have killed at least 25 people and an estimated 1 billion animals and scorched nearly 18 million acres. Big changes are coming to the country's main environmental protection law. President Trump moving today to make it easier for major energy and infrastructure projects to get approved. Trump said he wants the environment protected.
I want clean air, I want clean water. I want the cleanest air, I want the cleanest water. The environment's very important to me.
The new rules have support from trade unions as well as the oil and gas industry. There's a lot more news headed your way, remembering Father Joseph Gansilla, the parochial vicar at Our Lady of Guadalupe in Dyker Heights. Then the story of a mother who refused to give up. She won $1 million battle for medicine that may save her baby son's life. And Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg shares the news sent from heaven about her health. Father Joseph Gansilla, a priest of the Brooklyn Diocese, has returned to the Lord. A mass of Christian burial for the 50-year-old beloved cleric was celebrated this morning. Currents News' Tim Harfman reports.
Family, friends, and parishioners gathering at Our Lady of Guadalupe Church in Bensonhurst to say their final farewells to a Brooklyn priest.
He made me want to be an altar server.
I've never known a life without him.
Even though he was ill himself, he was very caring.
Father Joseph Gansilla died Monday from a lifelong battle with diabetes. He was 50 years old. Ordained in 2001, Father Gansilla was a parish priest, but he also worked with diocesan officials on combating sexual abuse.
He was teaching people how to keep themselves safe and their children safe, and it meant a lot to him.
Brooklyn Auxiliary Bishops James Massa and Octavio Cisneros presided over this morning's funeral mass, alongside dozens of priests and deacons. One of them, Father Christopher BETHGE, grew up where Father Gansilla first began his ministry.
Seeing him live out his priesthood every day, and to do it with joy, never angry, never saying no. Always saying yes to whatever the people needed. It was a life that I thought was heroic.
Something Father Gansilla's sister Linda says was instilled in her brother as a child.
He was always an altar server and really such a faithful guy, and not just in church, but in the way he lives and in his ministries.
Any way they asked him to do that, he did it joyfully. So any way they asked me, I'm going to try to do the same.
A standing ovation for a faithful servant. In Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
And some good news from Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She is now saying that her recent bout of health issues is over and confirming that she is cancer-free. Her doctors discovered a tumor in her pancreas last July during a routine blood test. The 86-year-old went through a 3-week course of radiation therapy to get rid of it and now says that it's completely gone. This is the 4th time Ginsburg has undergone cancer treatment. Now to the fight against assisted suicide. Despite strong opposition by the Catholic Church, there are laws on the books in 8 states allowing people to end their lives. California, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, Hawaii, Maine, Vermont, New Jersey, and the District of Columbia. Currently in New York, the Medical Aid in Dying Act is under consideration in committees in the State Assembly and Senate. The Euthanasia Prevention Coalition is holding a conference next Tuesday in Albany. To tell us more about that is the chair of the USA Euthanasia Prevention Coalition, Nancy Elliott, joining us from her office in New Hampshire. Thank you, Ms. Elliott, for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us exactly what's next Tuesday's conference all about.
Well, basically, we want to train people how they can talk to their legislator and explain to them what the dangers are so that they can articulate it to their own legislators and the legislators of the committees that will be deciding this.
Now, Governor Cuomo is in favor of passing a law allowing assisted suicide. Last April, in a radio interview, he explained why. Let's take a listen.
I say pass the bill. It's a controversial issue. It's a difficult issue, but the older we get and the better medicine gets, the more we've seen people suffer for too long.
Hearing that and knowing that assisted suicide legislation is under consideration in committees in both the Assembly and Senate here in New York, can you tell us what that exactly entails?
Well, listening to Governor Cuomo's comment about the people that are suffering, if you look at the statistics where this is legal, that is not the reason most people give. That's way down as to the reasons you'd want to do this. It's usually feeling a burden, lack of autonomy, issues that are basically about disability. It's not merciful. It's an abandonment of the patient. It's walking away from the person when they need your help the most. I know a doctor, and he mentioned to his patient who asked for it, he said, you know, I can't do that for you, but I'll stand there and hold your hand. I'll be with you through the whole thing. And the patient said, thank you. He just wanted to know that people were going to be with him and, that he wouldn't be left alone.
It's obviously such an emotional issue, so trying for so many families. Is it fair to say that in the media, though, it's not exactly, they're not on this issue?
The media does sound bites. They look at the sad stories, and it starts to look okay. But when you really look at what the bill does, it allows people who are not necessarily dying to commit suicide. So say, for instance, a 21-year-old, otherwise healthy diabetic could refuse to take his insulin, and he would be now terminal, and he'd qualify. Any of us who have any meds would qualify, because most of us are kept alive by meds today. And so under that, you would qualify. If your doctor made a mistake, if you had a wrong diagnosis, you could be living a lot longer. You could also get a cure. It doesn't count people who are can be cured.
Now, going forward, how is the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition planning on seizing momentum on this issue?
Well, I think it's really a grassroots thing. People have to talk to their legislator. That's the only way. I was a New Hampshire legislator, 3 terms, and when people called me up, I listened to the people I represented. And so if you live in a district and you think this is maybe not the best way to go, call your legislator.
Thank you so much, Nancy Elliott, chair of the USA Euthanasia Prevention Coalition. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Love to. Thank you.
New York State is reportedly investigating whether a religious-based group that offers a low-cost alternative to traditional health coverage is misleading consumers. Insurance regulators have subpoenaed Illyria Companies Incorporated, which operates Trinity Health Share. Members contribute funds to offset one another's expenses. The state says it's received complaints from more than a dozen customers in the past year. A 4-month-old baby has a single chance at life, but standing in the way is insurance, which proved to be no match for his determined mother. This has been life for 4-month-old Anthony Johnson, hooked up to machines that keep him alive.
We weren't given an exact timeline of his life, but we said up to 2 years is what we were told.
His mother, Louise, spends most of her days by his side in this Indiana hospital. She watches helplessly as her son fights spinal muscular atrophy, a genetic disease that robs one of their ability to walk, eat, and even breathe.
When we were going to say our goodbyes, or how long we would have with him, if we would have his first birthday with him.
Amid their despair, there is hope. An expensive one-dose medication that could help him live longer and improve his quality of life. However, the drug's price tag, $2 million.
A chance at a life with a better quality of life.
A chance that was initially denied by Medicaid. But like Anthony, his mother Louise is a fighter. She filed an appeal and won. Today, Anthony received the medication through an IV.
Does his respiratory function improve?
His doctor, Larry Walsh, says he's optimistic. The drug Anthony received, Zolgensma, is the first gene therapy approved to treat infants with this disease.
Where we do help his respiratory function, where we do improve his, he doesn't need to be on a ventilator or things like that, that would be a tremendous win, I think, for him and his family.
A family that just wants to finally be able to bring baby Anthony home.
I just want to see him grow up with his brothers and play with his brothers.
The FDA just approved the drug last year. Indiana Medicaid said prior authorization is based on clinical evidence and cost is never a factor. Still to come on Currents News, the plan by Catholics to build the biggest statue of Jesus in India is facing some tough opposition. We'll tell you all about it. And then a joyful nun asks the Pope for a kiss. He agreed, but with one caveat. That story is next. It will be one of the largest statues of Christ anywhere in the world, but it's in an unlikely place, Hindu-majority India. Work is already underway for the 100-foot-tall icon. The foundation for the statue can be seen in the foreground of this photograph, but Hindi groups are saying one of their gods actually lives on the hill designated for the project, and they want it stopped. Finally, tonight, it'll come as no surprise to anyone that the Holy Father might be a little hesitant when it comes to over-enthusiastic pilgrims. Just over a week ago, the Pope apologized for slapping a woman's hand after she grabbed him in an attempt to get his attention. Well, Francis faced a similar situation yesterday at his general audience, but this time he approached the person with some humor. And as you just heard right there, that the Pope's joke did prompt laughter from the crowd around them. Well, that's Currents News. I'm Lydia Serrani. Thank you so much for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time. Good night.